All right, boys, welcome back to another episode of the Maddog Method. This will be episode 3. Trialing a little bit of a different camera today. Hopefully it stays connected. This is like my little DJI camera that I use for my YouTube videos. I don't know how long it'll stay connected because if you're watching on video, this matters to you. If you're listening on Spotify or just in your ear, this has nothing to do with you. But if you're watching the video, a little bit better quality, just it looks a lot more cleaner than like the graininess of my MacBook camera. Hopefully this stays connected. I think my issue before was that when you have it on the face cam and it tracks my face, I think it kind of like shifts on and off here and there. It could go off in the middle of this podcast and I just switched my MacBook, which doesn't really matter. But I did order a webcam, so the videos from now on should be in a lot higher quality than like the graininess y'all have been seeing with the MacBook. I wanted to actually invest in a good webcam, so that is on the way. Should be here tomorrow. So better video quality on the way, but that doesn't really matter for today. Today I'm going to be going over a couple of questions I'll be getting across the week, as well as the main topic I want to hit on today, something that's like near and dear to my heart, is how to get comfortable with pushing your weight back up to gain muscle when you've been previously a fat guy. This is one of the biggest hurdles that a lot of big guys, there it goes. Okay, well, that's hilarious. Okay, well, I'm going to have to move this around. Why does it do that, bro? Okay, so I know that most of you don't watch for video quality anyway, so what does it matter? But the main topics I'm going to be hitting on today, or one of the main topics I want to hit on today, is how to get comfortable in your own day, in your own day-to-day process, or just in your body in general when you've previously been a fat kid, a fat guy, whatever, and you're trying to push your weight back up. Because this was one of the biggest hurdles for me, and one of the biggest helps that my coach has been with me in my recent process is like, you have to find things that are outside of your body and the way you look that give you like joy or whatever. But I'm going to be going a little bit more like in depth on how you can make your own diet, your training, your lifestyle, your habits, and all that kind of stuff a little bit more optimized, you could say, to get more comfortable when you're pushing your weight back up if you've previously been a fat person, because it's a big mental hurdle to go over. But I'll get to that topic after I do some of these listener questions. So the first one is going to be, what is the best process for a prep? Well, there's not really, that's kind of like asking what's the best way to build muscle. It's like, well, there are so many confounding, or not, that's the word, so many variables, like, it depends, obviously. But let's just say the ideal situation would be you're able to work your calories up quite high in the off season. Your metabolic rate is rampant. You worked up to, let's say just like 5,500, 6,000, 7,000 calories, to where you can make a pretty but pretty hard cut right out of the gate and get a pretty significant drop. I think that you need to have some sort of pre-prep process, whether that be, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks before you get into the actual prep, just to kind of, if you haven't been kind of following a prep-like adherence and process throughout your off season, this is kind of when you tidy up your schedule, you tidy up your life, and kind of just like prepare life variables as well before you get into a prep. Because like, if you've been into a prep, from 2016, however many weeks out that you are prepping for a show, it's just like, that is your main thought. I'm not saying you have to let your life go to shit outside of that, but it's one of the main things you're thinking about the whole day. So you can kind of use that pre-prep period to get your life together as well. I think the best physical thing that you gain from a pre-prep phase is if you have some sort of like kind of like a lag period sometimes from when you go from a bulk, from like your growth phase off season to a prep, to where you could use that 2 to 4 week period to get your body into that state. So when you do step into your prep, you're not wasting any time. You can gun it and you can just fucking go. That would be the ideal starting scenario, in my opinion. You worked your way up to a good amount of calories in the off season. You didn't try and do this main gaining, lean bulking bullshit. You do a pre-prep phase. it depends on how big you got, how far from stage weight and conditioning you are. That's probably what will depict how long that pre-prep phase is. And then you get into your prep. The best process for that prep, there's not really I don't really like this question, because there's not really an answer. There are some people that are going to have to linearly diet down the entire time. There are going to be people that there's going to be certain processes that coaches will run that they try and strip off things really hard at the beginning and then cruise into the show, which I think that's probably the best answer I can give to this question, is that you get that pre-prep period, you get the body optimized, start burning fat, I wouldn't say you run a like lower dose in that duration. You just kind of keep PEDs the same. You could keep probably output relatively the same, just decrease food in that pre-prep period and get your body ready to hop into prep. Once you get into prep, be it after this pre-prep phase, say you're 16 weeks out, somewhere in that range, really gun it hard at the beginning, because you don't have any fatigue. You don't have any ruminating fatigue built up previously from previous things. You were just in an off season. You're still fresh. You're still, good to go or whatever. So you could use the first couple weeks of your prep to really gun it, really. I'm not going to say you don't drop your calories super hard, but you can kind of be a little more aggressive out the gate. And then that would set you up in a position to be ready. I wouldn't say you need to be stage ready 5 weeks out, because I think that's a good way to come into your show small and, kind of kill yourself for 5 weeks, which is never fun, which it will depend if you're a younger guy like myself. You're not going to, the goal isn't to be blasting full of muscle on stage, because I don't have a lot of muscle. You guys my age, well, I won't say guys my age, but guys I just don't have a lot of muscle that are newer to this. Your goal shouldn't be to be on stage full and round like, I don't know, Brandon Curry or Samson Dowda. It should be just to be as peeled as you can be. So, context is king in all things bodybuilding. But getting back on like the process thing, it would be just to kind of, and let's just say this is more of like a heavyweight bodybuilder, someone that has a lot of muscle. You'd want them to be ready, I would say 2 to 3 weeks out is where I would say is ideal to be like, okay, we could probably go on stage looking something like this, obviously with some manipulation of water and other things within that last week. That would be a time you can probably pull out cardio, or it could be even earlier for some people. Or if you're some genetic anomaly, you could just be doing steps your whole prep. Some of us aren't blessed like that. You know what I mean? So it really just depends. There's so many variables that go into how a prep process is going to be, carried out. But that would be probably ideal, is like start from a very high caloric intake from your off season, do that pre-prep phase to where you get everything in line, be it physically, in your life, mentally, all that kind of stuff. You're able to be ready 2 to 3 weeks out to where you're doing no machine cardio at that point, case dependent, obviously. And then you just kind of relax into the show, do your practice refeeds, do your practice peak weeks, even obviously everything, try to, mimic everything that would happen within a peak week, besides maybe any like water manipulation, maybe like water manipulation as well, but like diuretic use or anything, of the crazier things that you would do like on the show day or the days previous or days prior. But then from that point on, it's just relaxing. You get to the week of the show, it's just rinse and repeat from there. And then, you get to the show, you relax, you don't overstress everything, and then you go kick ass. So I guess that'd be a long-winded answer for like what's the best process for a prep, because that's kind of a it's just got one of those questions where it's like, what's the best carb source? It's like, well, what's the situation? What's the best exercise for my legs? Well, what's the context here? So, but that would be my answer to that. What have I given up to get the results I've gotten? Well, I don't have many results to speak for, to be completely blunt, and not trying to be a dick to myself. But what have I given up? I mean, I guess a lot of like social time and like friend time, but like that's kind of why I say I'm so thankful for that relationship that I've mentioned on here a few times. On like, it kind of removed me from a lot of friend groups that were in my area of like where I live. And so like this is going to sound really depressing, but I don't have like a single friend in my town at this point. I talk to my grandpa, I talk to God every day, I talk to my friends on social media. So like that, just to give a little caveat, a little point, a big shout out to all the guys that I'm able to talk to on Instagram, YouTube, the school forum I'm on with, Joseph Percher and my coach, Tom Schuster. A big shout out to all you guys, because y'all are like a bunch of big brothers to me. And like I said, it's gonna sound really depressing, but I don't have one single friend in my town that I talk to regularly. I don't talk to anybody, nobody. It's just me, my grandpa, and God, and that's all the people I talk to. Not because I mean, there's just I don't really give people time that I don't think are worth my time and that aren't gonna not detract from my life. And I think that pretty much everybody that lives where I do, it would detract from my life in some form or fashion. And no one really gets bodybuilding around here, so I don't have any friends, which I don't think is like, people go, oh, this sounds so depressing. It's pretty it's pretty peaceful, you know what I mean? But that's kind of getting back to the point of like, what have I given up? Just a lot of social time and a lot of like pondering time and just a lot of bullshit time, which I don't think is something I've given up. Like I wouldn't want to, that's not to give up something. There has to be something of value to that thing, and there's no value to that. What have I given up? I mean, I guess that'd really be it. I mean, there's like social events that I could like attend or like want to go to, but it's like, well, I get more fulfillment, I think, out of getting my meals in, getting my training in, getting my sleep in, getting my steps in, getting my everything else in. So like those social events are something I'm missing out on. Yes. But what I'm doing every single day, that this thing that we all call the process of whatever it is you're doing, you know, I find more joy in that than I would some sort of social outing with people that I don't like, that are doing drugs or drinking or any kind of bullshit. And so I don't think I've given up too much. I've prioritized the correct things that bring me progress and the thing that I love. So it's like, I haven't really given up anything, to be honest. One of my favorite intensifiers. Ooh, this is a big debate. You know, guys on Instagram, like the science-based retards, will be like, oh, nothing but straight sets should be done, and intensifiers are a waste of your time. Well, they are fun, so I'm going to keep doing them. So some of my favorite ones, I like one I've been running is run the rack. So like what I do is I start with, it's on what you call it, front raises, dumbbell front raises, right? So I start, my go-to are the 50s and weak weight, you know, whatever, get off my nuts. But I'll do 10 to 15 reps there for my third set, and then I'll drop from 50s to 40s, and then from 40s I do every single dumbbell weight that's dropping down in 5-pound increments down to the 15s. And then when I get to like the 25s, the 20s, and the 15s, I will just like, or it's not front raises, it's a upright row, my bad, upright rows with dumbbells. And then I will just like with every rep, because when you get that low in weight, you can't really like jack it up because it's like, it's so light, it's just kind of, you can't really do that because it's like light or whatever. So I could get really like slow with it. And like every rep with those 25s, 20s, and 15s, I'll just like squeeze and then back down, squeeze and then back down. Those first couple drops, I'll be a little more branch worn with the weight. But then those last 3 weights, I'll just be really like squeezy with it. Those are fire. Another intensifiers. In my program personally, I have a couple rest pause sets like on my T-bars, on my shoulder press, my dip, one of my lat pull or lat. No, that's a drop set. I think on lats specifically, I think drop sets are really good when you are able to make good enough drop, like you're able to do accurate enough drops in your drop sets to where you can maintain really good form still. So like what I do on my single arm cable roll, my last set, it's a double drop set, but I've gotten good at being able to drop enough weight on those initial drops that I'm able to maintain I'm able to maintain the exact same execution and form for a good 6 to 8 reps for each drop, if that makes sense. I don't think drop sets are good whenever you, like, let's just say you're doing 200 pounds, right? You did 200 pounds, you got 10 reps, okay? But then you only drop 15 pounds on the stack or 10 pounds, and then you only are able to get with like the exact execution as your top set, you're only able to get three extra reps. You know, I don't really see there being merit to a drop set when it's that short. I think when you're able to extend it a good like 5 to 6, 7 reps, I think that's where I feel the best. And that's like with like lats specifically. I don't know if that'd be like the case with everything, but that's where I've seen a lot of benefit is like whenever you're really able to like do a set, you're squeezing the piss out of your lat, you're nailing the execution, your elbow is in the perfect position, all the other things that go into back training. And then you make a significant enough drop to where you're able to maintain that same execution I just mentioned, but you're able to squeeze really hard for another good 8 reps, and then make another drop and squeeze really hard for like a good 5 to 6 reps. That's really good. You know, with the newly implemented cues that I've been getting from my coach and just, you know, getting better at training, I've never had like more fried low. Like I know they say you can't train the low lats. Bullshit. There are days that I'll wake up now after back day, like right here, like down, you know, halfway down my ribs, it's sore. So like, I don't know what the anatomical argument behind that would be, but that's another one I like a lot. Supersets are good if you're short on time. You know, get a cable stack. You can have biceps set up here with curls. You can have push downs right behind you. bada bing, bada boom. That's really the only superset you could do on a cable stack. You know, there are supersets. I think supersets are kind of probably like the worst, probably D tier. It's hard to give like a letter rating just because a lot of people mess them up and they do them wrong. Like they'll superset like two exercises that do the same thing instead of, I think a way better approach for supersets is like opposing muscle groups, because it's like you could have just done more reps on that first set instead of just changing the exercise. I guess if you just want to have fun, you know, go for it, I guess. But yeah, I think so. Like rest, pause, drop sets are good. Run the racks are cool. I don't really do anything else besides those, to be honest, for intensifiers. So there was one question that I got on the professional muscle forum where I get a lot of my bodybuilding like thoughts and not want to say knowledge, but a lot of just ideas from, and where I go for like entertainment, I guess you could say. I go to the professional muscle forum, and someone asked me this, and I really wanted to go over this because it's also about me again too much, but this was a really good question, like a very well articulated answer or question. So I want to go over. So I'm reading good interviews, yada, yada, yada. I have a question topic. Said, you're very young. It's impossible to have built up the knowledge across all topics at your age. Basically, the question is, how are you handling that issue of age and experience as a relative newcomer to the field? What will you do if a client asks you about some sort of esoteric topic you don't have much experience with yet? How can you build trust as a young newcomer? So I'll answer these all independently. How are you handling that issue of age and experience as a relative newcomer to the field? I just have to deal with it. You know, when people don't buy into like what I have to say, I can't argue with them, to be completely honest. I can give you my reasoning, why I think the way I do or whatever. But at the end of the day, I am 21. I am young in this. I don't think a lot of people really care about the age. I think they care about the results that you get them and the knowledge that you do have. I don't think age really matters at all. I mean, there was guys that were running the country and ruling the world at 17 years old back in the day. You know what I mean? So I don't think age really matters. I think it matters more of the actual results, the application of information that person has, you know, etc. I think age is just a number, to be honest. There are a lot of guys that are older than me that I know in the space that are retarded and don't know what they're talking about and play a big picture online. And, you know, they just have the followers and know how to market themselves. I just don't know how to. I'm just not a big marketer and a big talker like that. So I think that like building trust for me and the way I go about things will probably be a slower burn process, but I think it will last a whole lot longer than someone who's older than me, who's gotten there, you know, through clicks, views, super bold claims and shit like that. You know what I mean? So I just have to keep learning and keep adapting. To the second question, like if a client asks me about, hey, bro, I want to try methyltrin, or hey, dude, I don't know, this marker and this marker, I think I'm pretty good with blood work, but like, let's say they have like, they come to me with like a GI map, right? And they're like, hey, I want you to solve this GI map issue for me. I think, honestly, with my connections and the courses I've taken, the people that I've learned from, the notes that I had, the 200 Google Docs that I have of notes, I could probably figure it out. Now, I think that when you're a coach and you are coaching people, you shouldn't need to refer to your notes. I mean, I think it's good to refer to your notes because, I mean, that's kind of why you fucking took them. But I think that cases like this, you need to be able to solve without looking back or asking people or yada, yada, yada. It should be something that you're able to like assess in the moment. You know, I think that's why bodybuilding coaching is so valuable, because like there is no course, AI model, mentor, university, whatever, fucking cohort that can really teach you like how to have the eye, like to peak someone or to get into someone's mental state, you know. But getting back to my point is, I don't think that a coach should take on clients or speak on things, and I've fallen victim to this, but I'm just maturing and I understand this better now, is that they shouldn't be speaking on or helping people with things that they can't speak off the dome on, like, and speak it in fifth grade terms. You know, I'm sure you guys have heard the terminology or the quote, phrase, whatever you call it, the analogy that, you know, you should be able to reiterate this information to your client, follower, friend, whatever, in like fifth grade terminology for them to understand. If you're having to speak in big ass words and all this other stuff, you know, I've done this a lot too, to be honest, but I've learned, and I don't do this now because I'm learning. But if you can't speak to someone about something in like fifth grade terms, they're just not you just don't know what you're talking about yet. And that's fine. That's not saying that you won't know this in the future or you can't learn this, but just right now, it's just not something you're well versed in. So if I had someone like this guy ask you right here, what if someone comes to you talking about they want to use mint? But brother, personally, I don't even know what mint would do for someone. I don't know. Is that methyltrin? Is that what they call methyltrin? I'm just not well versed in pharmacology yet. You know what I mean? Methyltrin. Okay, so methyltrin is not mint. Okay, whatever. But anyways, like I was saying, there are just things that I'm not well versed in, and I would refer them out. That's what I told this guy in like a brief synopsis of what I would do. I would either, if it's something I'm very uncomfortable helping someone with, I would be, hey, I don't know about this. I'm sorry. Here's my coach, Tom Schuster. Go talk to him. He'll help you. He'll be glad to help you. But if it's more like something I'm like in the middle of the road about, what I would do is I would just start a consult with someone that I know it's very, very well versed in that space. So if it's more like gut health, or if it's, whatever, I would do a consult with Mike White. I would do a consult with Austin Stout. If it's like something with the mental, maybe, I don't know, I would do a consult with Joe Jeffries, or I would do a consult with Tom, my own coach. And I'd be like, hey, I know you're not here to, you're not my coach to mentor me, but I would just like separate that conversation. I think that's where I can go on a whole other tangent about this, and I'll make that point in a little bit actually. But that's where you have like you can disconnect yourself from your coach and your own coaching process with him. Like, let's just say like me and Tom, right? Me and my coach. I'm not going to ask him when we make a change to my diet or my cycle or whatever, why we're doing that. I'm going to go I'm going to let him make the move, let him make the decision, and I'm going to go figure it out myself and maybe make my own rationale as to why. And if I want to ask him, hey, did we do this because of this? Ask your coach that in like maybe like guy to guy terms, not in like coaching terms. I think like the point I was going to make just now was like, be careful in the way that you approach you and your coach's relationship, and make sure there are lines that aren't crossed. They're not your mentor. If you have signed up with them and they have like agreed to mentor you and coach you, beautiful. But when it comes to your coach and your relationship with him, let him steer the ship and quit asking him questions. I'm not saying you never need to have questions. If you do have questions, have like 2 separate chats that you have. Like with me and Tom, we have WhatsApp and Instagram, right? Instagram is more lighthearted. If I got questions, I ask him that there. But WhatsApp is strictly fucking business. It's strictly, here's my check-in, my training, my gut health, my this, my that, any gear related things. It stays in WhatsApp. Everything else can go to Instagram. And if you can have that disconnect or that line drawn, I think you and your coach are going to have a lot more healthy of a relationship. Now, I know this is kind of getting away from the question that this guy asked, but like another thing is I kind of already hit on is if you have a coach and you want to be a coach yourself and you're trying to learn, see what they do. And then, like I already said, go and try and make some rationale as to why they're making that change. If someone, let's just say, for example, your coach has like a bunch of maybe more high volume fruits on your plan that are just taking up a lot of GI space, and you have a really shitty waist, right? You just have a wide waist. Okay. Now they switched all your fruit sources to like dates or bananas or to things that are more calorically dense and like less voluminous, but give you the same amount of carbs. If they make that switch, you could be like, maybe because I have a wider waist, we want to have this food in so I can have less food volume so I can keep my waist tighter after my meal, and I'm not eating 400 grams of watermelon to get the same amount of carbs that I would from 30 grams of dates. You can start to make that rationale for yourself when you do a little bit of research that you're not asking your coach. I think that this really only applies to the person that's trying to be a coach themselves, like myself. If you're just a regular bodybuilder who like wants to just bodybuild and have like a different job, just let your coach do his thing and shut up and just do it. But if you're trying to be a coach and you have a coach yourself, when they make a change to whatever, don't just be like, okay, but what was your rationale behind this? What was your thinking? Like just go figure out yourself. And then down the road, if you want to double check with them, have that separate from like y'all's coaching like conversations, because they're not your mentor. And then and sorry to get off on a tangent. Someone had mentioned that on a podcast earlier, and I resonated with that heavily. So, and also just you don't want to be annoying to your your coach either. If you're always asking questions, he's gonna make a change to your plan and be like, Jesus Christ, what he's gonna ask me now? So you also just don't want to be a burden to your coach. And then the last part of this question is, how can you build trust as a young newcomer? You just have to produce results with people, progress your physique, give out a lot of free info that's actionable, and give it time. And I'm just saying that because that's what I've been told to do. I'm not saying a bunch of people trust in what I say, but you have to you have to walk the walk yourself. Your clients have to get the results you say that you can get people, and you have to put out a lot of good free content and value. Just give out value, give out. That's how you build trust. Like a business mentor of mine a while ago, or someone I followed, or I can't remember who it was, but they're like, every time that you make a post, every time that you do whatever, you're like building a little bit of like real estate in that person's head. And you just got to give content and give value and give advice and give this and give that. And that's how you build trust as a young newcomer. I think that, like I said, age is kind of just, it's just a number at the end of the day. Like if I look at two coaches, I'm like, if I were to pick like two coaches, I'm not going to ask how old are you. Now I know it's different for me because I'm like super young into this, but in general, I'm not going to be like, maybe he just looks really old and he's actually just been on gear since he was 5 years old and he's actually 20 years old. They're not going to be like, how old are you? They're just going to be like, what do you know? And can you give me the results? And can I trust you? What I mean? So like I said, it is hard because like a lot of people will be like coming into the coaching space, or really with any thing in general, if they're not very well versed and they don't have a lot of confidence, they're going to be like, oh, I have like imposter syndrome, I'm this and I'm that. Well, it's like, I feel like if you have imposter syndrome, that probably is a sign that you're lacking in that thing that you think you like are an imposter, but you probably are. It's as simple as that. Like I get that a lot. Like I've only surrounded myself with very well-versed people in bodybuilding and health. That's all the people I talk to. The little cohort I'm in, gray matter or whatever, bunch of geniuses. They're making 9 times as much money as I am. All the guys I listen to, they're all very well versed. So I feel like an imposter all the time. And that's a good thing, because that just shows that your subconscious knows that you need to progress more, and that there's like more to be pulled out of yourself, whether it be knowledge, work, results, whatever. I think if you were in a spot where you felt like you're the big dog and you really belong, you probably have either surrounded yourself with people that are of like lower caliber than you are, and that is not going to improve where you are in life at all if you surround yourself with people like that. But it also means that, I guess that's the only point. That's the only point it is that you surround yourself with people that have made you feel like you're the top dog, the big dog. And if you put yourself in situations like that, you're never going to grow as a person. You know what I mean? You have to continue to put yourself around people. This doesn't mean like in person necessarily. This could be just online, who you talk to, the content you consume, etc. But just continue to surround yourself and listen to people that are above you. You're going to continue to have this imposter syndrome. I kind of compare this to like the feeling of never being satisfied with your physique. That is kind of a blessing, because that just shows that you're not being satisfied with where you are in life. And that is beautiful. If you didn't have that imposter syndrome or whatever, that would show that you've become satisfied with where you are. And I never want to get to that position ever at all, because there's always another mountain to climb, they say. But that was kind of a long-winded answer to that question. But I'm going to move on to the next one. I'm going to get to my topic that I wanted to talk on a little more in depth on, is how to get comfortable. Like how have I gotten comfortable, and what are some things that I've done to my diet, my whatever, that have helped me become comfortable with pushing my weight back up after I've spent, since 2022, 2021, really just focused on, not being a fat ass. It's probably the biggest hurdle that fat guys go through whenever they have lost the fat and they want to gain muscle, and they're going to go through the phase of like, oh, I'm going to main gain, I'm going to lean gain. And if you do that, like I mentioned in the past, you're just not going to make a lot of progress. If you want to be able to diet on more calories, less cardio, and look better, you are going to have to add muscle. And that is going to come with adding weight back to the scale and adding a little bit of fat. And you have to get comfortable with that. If you want to diet on 1,700 calories for the rest of your life and look like a pool noodle at the end of your cut every single year and have no muscle and gain 2 pounds of muscle for the rest of your life, like half these people are going to do that, do the main gain bullshit, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. That's just more progress for me to make and for you not to make. That's cool with me. But if you're going to be someone that wants to be able to diet on more calories in the future, you're going to have to add muscle. So what are some things that you can do if you were a fat guy before, you don't have to be a kid, just anyone. If you were fat before and you're wanting to increase your muscle, increase your body weight, increase your size, and be mentally okay with that. So a couple of the points I made here that I have done is, hold up, I'm gonna make this more suitable for me to go through. I kind of made like a chart for me to go over with you guys. So the first thing is gonna be meal composition. Okay, if you want to keep like a tight waist, a tight stomach, you've lost all this weight, you've had the beer belly for fucking 5-10 years or whatever, and you have finally lost all the weight, and you want to stay looking relatively lean. Okay, the first thing I would do is structure your meal composition to sources that you can get down. That this is going to hit on a few points all at once, but bear with me, that you can get more macro and micronutrients for less volume. I made the dates in the banana option or the example earlier in a different context. You could get, I think it's 15 grams of carbs from 30 grams of dates. Okay, let me pull up my coaching sheet. This is going to be a little bit of behind the scenes for you guys of how my coaching looks. I have this food swaps option in my coaching. If you're interested in coaching, links in the bio. Quick little plug. But anyways, for 15 grams of fruit or 15 grams of carbs, you would have to eat 300 grams of watermelon. Do you know how much that is in a bowl? Okay, do you know how much stomach burden that's going to hold if you eat 300 grams of watermelon 5 times a day, or what? That's how you get your whatever in, or even 255 grams of strawberries. That's a lot. 210 grams of blackberries. That's a lot of volume, right? So find the sources of foods that can keep your waist and keep your big old tummy, that was a big old tummy, more compact, if that makes sense. So that's going to be things like probably prioritizing more like rice, less potatoes, less oats, less like fattier cuts of beef or whatever, more chicken, maybe shrimp, fish, things like that, to where you can keep a tighter waist, a smaller stomach, and still get the same micro and macronutrient values. Now, obviously, there are going to be times that you can have a couple of those sources that I just mentioned, potatoes, beef, oats, whatever. But the majority of your meals need to be made up of foods that are just higher in those micronutrients that hold less weight, to where your stomach isn't protruding the whole time you're in an off season, and they digest well. That's another thing, is digestion and finding the foods that you and your stomach agrees with. I don't care if on paper this protein is better for building muscle, this protein is better for a bulk, this carb is better at this time, this fat is better for this. If you don't digest it well, I'm not going to have you eat it. I'm not going to put it on your plan. It's as simple as that. It is as simple as finding the foods that you can digest well, that digest quickly, especially around like your peri-workout window. You don't want to be having any, bad, slower digesting things around your workout, and just run with those. I think you need to find like a good subset of proteins, carbs, and fats that you digest well, that keep your stomach tight the whole day, that you're not, over consuming either. That's why you need to have multiple sources, not just I only eat chicken and I only eat rice and I only eat zucchini, because that could be a whole slew of issues as well when you eat the same thing over and over. So you need to have a good subset of proteins, carbs, and fats that you digest well, and that's it. It's really no more complicated than that. Another good point is, if you're trying to add weight, trying to add size, and you're trying to keep your stomach tight as well, and you don't want so much food burden, you could do, I think all guys that are pushing their weight up, and honestly in all phases, need to have some sort of intra-workout carbohydrate. And that could be a way to get in those calories that you would rather otherwise get from food in an intra-workout drink or whatever. So that is one, getting in your calories that you would otherwise get from food. 2, it's going to be fueling your training performance. It's going to help you recover more, and it's 3. And then 4, it's not going to like add to your stomach volume that food, like to the extent that food would, if that makes sense. Like if you drink an Intra shake that equals out to 80 grams of carbs, and then you weigh that out to how much weight that would be in your stomach for 80 grams of carbs from rice, and so a lot more, obviously. So I think all guys in all phases, the pre and post workout window period should be the last place that your carbs are pulled from. which is a whole different topic in and of itself. But that's just also another way to get in the calories without adding so much stomach and food burden. Because if you eat a bunch of food and you're completely stuffed the whole day, you're going to be like, oh, I'm still the fat as I was before. That it's going to get to your head. So that could just be a way you get in calories a little bit easier. Another thing that I really enjoy, is a shorter time frame for my meals. And this can honestly help in a cutting scenario and a growing scenario. I think what I've found to work best for me is a longer period in the morning. It's not like a fast or anything, but I usually get up at, my alarm goes off at 4:15. I do my cardio, my whatever. I do my morning drink with astragalus and glutamine. I drink my water, whatever. I go to work. I get to work at 6, and then I don't have my first meal until 8:45 or 9. So I go from 4:15 to, at the earliest, 8:30, at the latest 9 without eating. I think that gives your stomach a little bit of like a break, a little bit of like a little bit of a break, and I feel like that has allowed me to keep my stomach really tight in the mornings, and then I'm kind of queuing that the entire day now. So that's why, guys, like Joseph Percher makes a good point with this. Like, he wears that waist trainer, and it just like reinforces in his head to like stomach tight to your core the whole day. And that's what that morning period of fasting has done for me, is that the whole morning while I'm drinking I also have like an energy drink in the mornings when I go to work or whatever. Like the whole morning, I'm thinking about just tight waist, like keep my stomach in. I'm not letting my stomach protrude at all. Kind of like Milos always talks about it. Keep your waist tight, 24/7. And that's what that morning period of fasting has done for me. And then once you start eating, you also are able to keep your meals like a little bit closer to where you're eating every 2 hours, 2.5 hours, to where hopefully in an off season, you keep your appetite as well. I think if you get to a point in the off season to where, it's going to happen to everybody, but your appetite goes to complete shit, probably a bad thing. But if you're able to have this period of fasting in the morning, you're able to keep your meals in like this shorter time frame to where you're eating like 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours. And the appetite, there's no appetite issues. There's no food noise issues. It's just like whenever you're ready to eat, it's time to eat, because you have this shorter time frame, if that makes sense. Another thing you guys could work on is less carbonation. If you're having, a diet soda every couple hours, you're drinking them like it's water, you're popping them like Tic Tacs, that's going to add a lot of discarbonation to your stomach, a lot of burpee, a lot of stomach protruding, it's going to make you feel like a fat boy again. So I would just keep them out. I think 1 to 2 per day, that's fine. I'm not saying to never have them, but less carbonation has helped me a lot. And it's also going to allow you to keep your stomach a little bit tighter, like I've mentioned, in a couple points before this. Some other things that could help you get comfortable when you're pushing your weight back up. I've made this point on previous podcasts, but it's going to be, you have to find things within your day-to-day process, within your training, within your lifestyle, within your habits that bring you joy, that are not physique related. I'm not going to, expand on that again. It's pretty self-explanatory, but just find joy in the progress that you're going to make, the training that you can progress on every single day you train, being more meticulous with your process and the way that you carry yourself, the man that you're becoming through the disciplines of bodybuilding. There's so many things that I can name. There's a 1,000 of them, but just, they don't have to be simply, I got a new vein in my arm, or, oh, look at this new chest definition. It has to be separate from the body and more like habitual things or spiritual things or executional things like that. So that's my blueprint for getting comfortable and building your weight back up after you've been fat your whole life. And at the end of the day, if your goal is simply to get huge, you kind of have to get over it. Like, this is just a part of the process. You know what I mean? And if you can't accept that, then this probably isn't for you, and you should go find a new hobby. Simple as that. Top 3 cream of rice flavors from any brand, any company. Bob's Red Mill rice flour with literally any protein that you want. There's mine. I don't really buy any of the flavored cream of rice. I think that, like, okay, I'm gonna make a quick price comparison right quick just for you guys. Let's just go Elevate, because I don't want to ruffle any fucking feathers. Cream of rice. All right, 1 bag of Elevate. I'm gonna share my screen too. I'm gonna get really specific with this shit right quick. All right, so Elevate cream of rice, $25. Okay, for how many servings? Let's just go here. It doesn't say. 25 servings. Okay. $25, $21 per serving, right? There is, what's the description on this? It doesn't say. I can't find where it's at. So one bag is, what does that say? 850 grams in this one bag. All right. For $25. Okay. Now we're going to go to Bob's. There it is. Okay. For a 4-pack of this white rice flour that is 680 grams, 1.8 pounds. Yeah, 1.8. Wait, 1 pound, 8 ounces is $18. So let's do the math on that. 680 times 4 is 2,720 grams of cream of rice flour. Okay. Now that's for what, $19, let's say. For this, for $25, you're getting, what was it again? 850 grams. So let's do 850 times 4. 3,400. Okay. I'm getting way too caught up in the math, but you get the point. You get the point. So for this, it's $25 for one bag of cream of rice. This, on the other hand, like that last 4-pack. Oh, you're not even seeing the screen I'm looking at. Oh, this is stupid. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me switch this. Stop. Share. Boom, boom. Okay, this is the cream of rice I'm talking about that I use. This lasted me. My last batch, I just got my newest batch of cream of rice. It lasted me like a month and a half. For $19. This Elevate cream of rice, this bag would last me like, I don't know, like a couple weeks, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That thing of Bob's Red Mill lasted me like almost 2 months. So that's my answer for the cream of rice thing. I think that if you're, not to hate on all those companies, and it's kind of ironic because like I got a code with Flavor Gang or whatever. Kind of dumb in my opinion, but I still have my code with them if you want to use it, code Maddog. But in general, I think if you have the luxury to do it, go ahead, buy it. I don't. I'm, a broke 21-year-old just trying to make it, just trying to work my way up in the world, right? I'm not spending $25 on cream of rice that I can make with this rice flour that tastes the exact same, and I can make it in any flavor I want. So any flavor of protein out there on the market that comes from like a reputable company, you can add to this cream of rice and make any flavor that you want. Whenever you buy from these companies, you kind of have to work within the confines of, or you have to pick from within the confines of the flavors they make or whatever. Bro, if I want to make a peanut butter from Axe and Sledge and a banana from Nutrix, peanut butter, banana, cream of rice, I can do that. If I want to make a s'mores from NutriBio and a cookies and cream from Nutrix, cookies and cream s'mores, cream of rice, I can do that. But if you're ordering from these asinine companies that are charging you $30 for cream of rice, you can't really do that. So not to go off on a tangent, but I mean, if you want to buy your Gooby's Pieces cream of rice, brother, go ahead. But it's just not really my thing. You know what I mean? I don't really get with that, to be honest. But what's some other questions I got? Time management you learn from bodybuilding, some like time management habits. I mean, yeah, that's one of the biggest things you kind of have to adapt when you get into bodybuilding is time management. When you're going to get your cardio in, get your meals in, get your training in, get your sleep in, get your this and get your that's it. I mean, it's just kind of I've always been a very meticulous person with time management, to be honest. So I don't really I hate being late anywhere. So that's just kind of been like ingrained in my head since like birth. So that's not really nothing new there. I had some more questions I wanted to go over. Podcast started up. Give me 1 second. Can you consume creatine all year round, or should you take breaks and let your body produce naturally? That's kind of like, yes, you could take it year round. I don't think it's not like testosterone to where you try and come off and have your natural production come back online. That this just doesn't make sense. Like, just take it year round. I don't think, to be honest, I think creatine is one of those things that like I've taken it consistently for like 2 years now, but like I think honestly if I took it out I would not see a difference, to be honest. I wouldn't like, I don't think it's one of those things to where you take it out and the next day or the next week you're like, oh my god, I can tell the creatine has left my body. I don't think it's one of those things, to be honest. Former fat kid tendencies and fixing them. I may have done that question already actually, but some former fat kid tendencies. Well, a tendency I still have, I made a post on, is I still tug at the bottom of my shirt a lot. That's just going to be something that you're going to do probably forever. fat kid tendencies, always wearing hoodies and pants. I still do that. I think a lot of like your fat kid, like insecurity, secure things that you develop when you're a bigger person before, you kind of carry with you forever, which is, just par for the course, I guess. But a lot of the like habitual things, like maybe with eating, you're saying, just remove yourself from environments where food is the focus, or remove yourself from environments where like eating is like the main focus, if that makes sense. So like if you always eat in this one area in your house, your home, or whatever, and like maybe that's where you binge a lot, or just a restaurant, or just like a place in town, just don't go there. It's kind of like that habit thing, like from Atomic Habits, where if there's something that comes into your home that makes you do something bad, don't let it come in your home. If it's food, don't bring the food home. If it's drugs, don't bring the drug home. If it's drinking, don't bring the alcohol home. If it's the girl, don't bring her home. Some other things would be I don't really know. Like a lot of my fat kid tendencies, like being kind of quiet to myself and like tugging at my shirt and always wearing baggy clothes, I still kind of do. Snacking and stuff, I don't really have any more good points to go off from that. And yes, so the last thing I'm going to go over is a little bit, a couple of these points have been more around myself, so I apologize if this seemed kind of like about me, but I wanted to go over with you guys a couple of the changes that I've made to my current process, the whole thing that I'm doing right now, and going over my labs, going over some of the markers and numbers and stuff like that, even though there's nothing that's too exciting, because I'm not doing any fucking like 3 gram cycles like some of you guys do, or some of you guys see. But just wanted to go over like my own process and what I'm seeing and what is going on with me. So let me pull this here. Finder. I think my labs are in here. Yeah, perfect. All right. So bada bing, bada boom. Okay. Maybe y'all can see this. I hope you can see this. So this is what my labs looked like. Everything in the CMP looked good. Lipid profile looked good. Cholesterol, triglyceride, HDL, LDL, all in a pretty good spot. Official is doing its work. Probably could be a little bit better, but it's fine. A1C is in not the best spot. My glucose came back like 85, but A1C didn't look the best, and I'll be going over that here in a little bit. Magnesium, good. Iron still pretty low. I am still supplementing with the lactoferritin, so that should help that, because my ferritin also came back actually lower than what it was before, which is crazy, but that will increase. That will probably most likely improve with time with the supplementation of the lactoferritin. 500 mg per day, split twice away from food. CK obviously going to be high. I trained the day before, not too bad though. CRP 0.4, ferritin 59, like I said before, pretty low. TSH on my thyroid panel looked good. Free T4 was pretty low, but like I believe that free T3 is a little bit more important, since that's like the active form. But that's also what I supplement with T3. I don't supplement with T4. So that all looked good. DHEA 340, insulin 2.8, probably could be better. E2 came back at 16, which is half of what it was my last labs, which I will be alluding to here in a second. Prolactin 9.7, free test, total test, the moon. SHBG 18, so pretty low there, pretty good. PSA 0.9, my balls are shut off, basically. Folate, whenever, B12 good. Down here, vitamin D, a little bit low, but not terrible. And then CBC looked good. Hemoglobin, hematocrit looked good. Everything else looked good. So main things I wanted to go over with you guys is going to be the E2 and the insulin conversation. So we changed let me go to my sheet, and I'll go here, and I'm going to zoom this in to 125. Scoot this over. So we switched my cycle design. We kept the same milligram dosage, the same milligram load per week. I think it's the same. And maybe like 5 less. I don't know. I don't know the math. 660. Okay, it's 5 milligrams less. So basically nothing. But I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you guys. So the EQ brought my E2 down to like a 16, which is a little lower than ideal in my opinion for me. I don't know if my drier skin the last couple of weeks has been a reflection of that. I know that is a side effect of pretty low E2, but I also have eczema. So is it eczema, is it low E2? You'll never really know. But this is what I'm currently running. It's 560 test, 105 EQ, same compounds, just different, just different ratios, and that's really all that has changed on that front. As far as my diet goes, it is the exact same as it was that you guys saw the last time. I've been steadily gaining at where I was at before with my diet that I was on. I'm going to extend this over to make this look a little bit prettier. So yeah, same meal plan as before. On training days, it's 3920 calories, 282 protein, 56 fat, 572 carbs. On my rest days, same protein, same fats. Just pull out the intra-workout and a little bit lower carbs on my meal one. And all the meals are just lower carbs. That's basically really the only thing that should change between your training and non-training days. I think it's kind of overkill when guys will do like super high fats on rest days and no carbs, or these super like up and down like shifts between training and rest days. I think if you just pull out the intra carbs and just go lower carbs across the days, that's really all the change that you would need to keep hunger high in an off season. Trying to optimize like insulin sensitivity and to also give your gut a break. I think really the only thing you should do is just be dropping carbs, and that's really it. But besides that, there's not been anything else changed on my front from my bodybuilding. Sitting at like 186.4. I can pull up a few pictures, I guess, of my last check-in. I've also got some posing sessions with Chris. His name's Chris. My coach Tom sent me him. I got some sessions booked with him to work on some of my posing. You know, Tom made a good point. He was like, I would like for you to get some posing with him so I can like accurately assess your posing, because it's like you could look really good in some of these poses, but I just don't know what you look like because you're not posing it correctly, which I think is a great point to make. So I'm going to get some sessions in with him later down the road, because right now he's very busy with whatchamacallit, nationals coming up and all sorts of things like that. So I'm gonna get with him in a few weeks from now, but that'll be really cool to see like if my physique looks way different than like what I've previously thought, just because I haven't been posing it right. So that'd be really cool to see. But there's a little bit of update on my front on what I'm doing, you know, when it comes to my bodybuilding process, if y'all were interested. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. If y'all have any questions for me about your own process from bodybuilding, if you're a lifestyle guy, if you're just a random Joe watching on the street, if you got any questions at all, let me know. If you have any questions about my process and what my goals are going forward, or really anything for me at all, bodybuilding, mental health, you know, life, God, faith, Jesus, all that kind of stuff, let me know. But until next time, guys, I'm gonna go get my next meal and I'm out.